Welcome back to my SPL analysis. In this video, I will be analysing my Week 6 game against Tamahome. This is a week late. I've just been completely swamped with work and today I had some time. So in the interest of completing my project of analysing every single one of my SPL games, as well as being intellectually honest, from the sense of analysing my losses, I'll be analysing this game. And sort of my attitude to the game is that losses are probably more important than victories because they offer a bit more insight into thought process and maybe thinking about where to improve for next time. So I have up on my screen the team that I brought, and as I said earlier, I've just completely had no time at all. I've been going to bed at like past 11 and just waking up at 6 and just had no spare time. So last week I loaded up a very standard, very old team, Skämtar and with CB-Mens, Pursuit-Tar and the gang. Very standard 6, very solid. I had a lot of success with this on ladder. I think I've laddered this team to 1700 or so. Standard, solid stuff. Haven't really changed some things, and there are definitely some metagame things that kind of threaten this build. And we'll sort of go into more detail for other options for the team in terms of, same 6 different sets maybe to better cover the metagame. But as it is, we have Jolly CB-Mens, just because we kind of need the speed control. Everything is really slow, and outspeeding positive-natured Celebi is huge, as well as, Jirachi and things like that. And in a pinch, opposing Salamence and Zapdos. So we have CB for physical attacks, Swampert with Refresh, and combined with the Wish support to Skarmory and Swampert, it's very solid unless they boom or have an HP Grass. The EV spreads? Oh, what? Oh dear, I didn't realize this at all. Okay, looks like I brought a minus attack natured Swampert last week. That's sad. Yeah, don't run minus attack Swampert. That's really funky. I don't think that ended up mattering, but it definitely could. Oh my god. So I'm a bit frozen while recording. Just pretend that has a better spread. I think it does appreciate some speed to speed creep on Blissey. Skarmory. And this is a bit flexible. You can have Drill Peck, you can have Protect, Toxic, probably not Taunt, in some order. If fitting Raw on Swampert or Tyranitar, Skarmory can potentially drop Raw, just because having a 4th move like Protect will be so helpful for the longevity of Skarmory, especially with support from Wish Bliss. We have Magneton, Max Modest to sort of deny spikes from Skarmory hopefully, and I'm sort of taking a risk with this lose to YOLO Skarm spread, but previous weeks I think I was really well equipped for YOLO Skarm. I don't think YOLO Skarm is a good mon in the meta right now, and definitely not a good one to bring against me because I'm aware of it and I prepare against it. So last week I skipped out on that. Blissey, I've dropped Ice Beam for T-Wave and Wish. It is a bit of Doug food, but it's kind of Doug food anyway-ish. And against Doug teams, CB-Mens should trade kills well enough. So that's kind of a calculated risk, I guess. Potentially could run Ice Beam if running a different T-Tar set. And since no special attack, that means we can really pump up the bulk. I have a little bit of speed creep, not terribly important. Minus attack, minus special attack doesn't make a big difference. The difference would be when you're forced to struggle with Blissey versus getting swaggered by Swampert and Devapert. That probably happens more often than Blissey running out of Seismic Toss PP. So minus attack is probably the way to go. Last of all, a Pursuit Tyranitar. And as you can see, we've dropped out Fire Blast for Ice Beam and Grass coverage, just so that this can really support Salamence by potentially pursuing or HP grassing opposing Swampert. It's a bit funny when you use Tyranitar to check counter swamp it or like pursuit trap it. That's the idea behind this set. And sometimes I like to run 248 HP to live Meteor Mash from Metagross without a Choice Band boost. But since I'm not running a fire move, I didn't think it would be worth it, and the extra speed might come in handy for outspeeding Claydol, potentially, because Claydol can be a bit annoying for the team. So there's the 6, explaining a bit of a classic team. The idea is to spike stack, keep everything alive with Blissey, deny spikes, and kill everything with Salamence. It's a fun team when it works. Lots of people have used this 6, and one game that really stands out to me in my memory is Game 4, or it was Game 5, of my best of 5 against M-Dragon in the Kalos Finals, Set 1. He brought the 6 against me, but he had a sub DD tar there. And this is flexible. What we'll do now is we'll go through the replay of the game, see how I got completely smashed, and then maybe think about what I could have done better, or maybe making changes to the team to make it a bit more viable going forwards. So this is my team, and let's go into the replay now. So I actually didn't live record the game at all. I wasn't planning to analyze, just thought I'd have no time. So for this time we're gonna go through the replay. So it won't have the calcs or the exact timing of our moves. But I think I've clicked through and didn't really analyze the game as much during the game as I should have. So let's get started. Let me turn the sound off for this. We have a Salamence lead and they lead Zapdos. This is one of the most common encounters turn 1, a Zapdos versus a Salamence. I would redirect you to BKC's analysis. He covers this very in depth. But basically, most of the time, Salamence is more threatened than the Zapdos, because Zapdos threatens a timid HP Ice to Oko Salamence, whereas best case scenario for Salamence is to run Jolly CB, Rock Slide, which is not even a guaranteed Oko on Zapdos, as well as it being a potential speed tie. With all of those factors, Salamence usually wants to switch out, and Zapdos also wants to switch out. And BKC said, Zapdos turn 1 going to Metagross is a very fine turn. He explained that Mixments doesn't stay in, and doesn't Fire Blast very often. And in the event that I click CB Rock Slide, Metagross does catch that. Another thing I like to do sometimes with Zapdos is to switch to Tyranitar turn 1, because Tyranitar also catches initial Zapdos checks from turn 1. It still does take a chunk from Rock Slide, but it's kind of manageable in a way. I do have a Blissey, as you saw from the team breakdown. With the Intimidate going through to Zapdos, going to Blissey is pretty much okay, because Zapdos shouldn't really baton pass turn 1. It can sometimes, but it should do that a very low percentage of the time. So Blissey or Tyranitar are both okay here for me, and Zapdos can pretty much do anything. I can double switch the Tyranitar or Metagross, I can click Thunder Wave, Toxic, all of those things. So I go to Tyranitar. I'm not sure if I'll be doing this again this SPL. Well, I've said it now, so maybe I will, but I've done this twice already. I've gone T-Tar turn 1 against Golden Sun in week 1, and also against Tamahome in week 6. And he Thunder Waves. So now Zapdos is threatened out, because if this is a Mixments and I'm running some sort of offense, Zapdos is very, very valuable. He doesn't know my remaining 4, so he wants to keep it alive, so he's probably switching out. I guess from turn 1 he can figure, well obviously I'm not a Lum DD tar, but also I'm probably not terribly offensive, and more of a very bulky, maxish HP spread. Otherwise, it's terrible to switch in turn 1 against Zapdos. Kind of forcing him out, and so I Pursuit and get a chunk against it. I wasn't as afraid of a baton pass because it already has taken Intimidate, and that 42% tells us that it's an offensive Zapdos. And the fact that he goes Metagross, you know, this is screaming offense. T-Wave Zapdos, lead, that's running pretty much no bulk. Metagross turn 2, yeah, this is screaming offense. Now, on this turn, I make a controversial play maybe. And maybe he makes a controversial play as well. Really going in detail into the first few turns, because those first few turns really shape how the game's going to play out. From what we've seen so far, the Metagross can potentially be a physical attacking Metagross, and that will be backed up by a Magneton. Otherwise, the Metagross doesn't come in like this turn 2. So if it's a physical Gross, there's a Magneton in the back. Could be mixed, and it could also be Choice Band. And against the things that it can do, especially Choice Band, I don't really want to go into Skarmory. I'm definitely never going to Pert. I'm not risking my only DD Tar check. So my play is to go to Skarm or go to Mag to try to catch a Boom. And I decided to go Mag. If it has Choice Band Brick Break, it could potentially have that, but it doesn't really make much sense. So this is something that I feel like a lot of the ADV community missed. Brick Break Metagross pairs well with a Spinner. Without a Spinner, it's not going to want to Brick Break anyway. It wants to Boom as soon as possible to remove Skarm from the game. Brick Break still lets Skarmory get 1 or 2 layers down. Looking at the Zap, it has a Zapdos. No Bulk Zapdos plus Choice Band Brick Break Metagross cannot fit a Spinner. Like if you have Starmie and a Fighter, you don't generate enough pressure. Like I've played around with this a lot, and Spinner plus CB Gross plus Zapdos is not a viable team of 3. And that's my understanding of the game, and you're welcome to disagree. I'd love to hear disagreements, but that's my read on the team composition. So if he does Choice Band Brick Break somehow, and reads me going hard Mag, then my Skarmory can spike up anyway, and he won't have a Spinner. And if he managed to build a team to bring in a best of 1 that has Choice Band Metagross, no Bulk Zapdos, and a Spinner, well done to him. But I don't think that's possible, like for a good team that covers most of the metagame. So this is a calculated risk, thinking if he's Choice Band, he's going to mash or Boom. And if he's unlikely to Brick Break, and even if he does, Skarmory can spike up against that. So that's why I went hard Mag. Tamahome, legend that he is, Earthquakes on the Magneton. That's a great turn for him. I think I stand by my play. All things considered, I go to Skarm some of the time. I can stay in some of the time. I can pivot to Salamence some of the time. Especially in a turn 2 thing like this, where sets are not revealed, teams are not revealed. I think it's important to have a few viable things to click. There are some moves that are a bit more viable than others that I'd do more often. For example, I'd stay in with Tyranitar way less of the time, especially because it doesn't have a fire move. Go to Skarmory or Magneton most of the time. So if I were to split roughly what my turn 2 looks like, I'd probably go to Skarm maybe 30-40% of the time, maybe go to Mag a little bit more than that, maybe 35 to 45% of the time, go to Salamence a small sliver of the time, maybe stay in with Tyranitar a very, very small sliver of the time, and never go Swampert or Blissey. So that's how I'd break down my turn 2 options. Many of you seen the game, so looking from Tama's perspective, he should mash, EQ, and Boom some of the time. That's for him to decide based on his team, based on his read of my first few turns. I think I'm just going to take too long if I break down what he should do as well. But there are some players who are calling Earthquake a bad move. It's not a bad move. It's maybe something you do less of the time. So maybe, let's just say his 4th move is Double Edge or Rock Slide. I'd mash and Boom maybe 40% of the time each, or maybe 45% of the time each, and Earthquake 10% of the time each. And that 10% of the time will keep me on my toes from going to Mag in the future. Okay, so that was a long rant on move 2. Turn 3. Keeps his Metagross alive and catches my Magneton. I'm definitely behind now. So I go to Skarm, get a Spike down. And also another thing I'd like to add is there's a nuance in Earthquaking there that some other people missed as well, in that if I had gone to Skarmory on his Earthquake, I might not have spiked. I might have switched out to Magneton or Salamence to scout what he does. For example, turn 3, he Earthquakes. If I went to Skarmory, I might double to Blissey to sort of catch all his moves. If Earthquake, I stay alive. If he goes to Mag or Zapdos, Blissey can get a free turn and Seismic Toss or throw out a T-Wave, something like that. Although, on this team, I would most likely Spike, just because Zapdos is max special defense and it has a chance to live Magneton anyway. I'm not sure. Turn 2, turn 3 is really, really interesting. But as it happens, I'm really behind now. Because this Metagross is going to come in later and just get a boom trade again. So I spike up and he goes to Zapdos. I think we're always doing these moves. And now I'm switching out of Zapdos and I think he's T-bolting. I can spike up again. I don't think it's worth the risk. Skarmory is extremely valuable in this matchup. So I can go Tyranitar or I can go Blissey. I guess I could go Swampert as well. Blissey does invite in Metagross, but the Metagross is going to get a trade this game anyway. So basically I'm going to be down 5-4 and I'm going to have to throw out a Mon to trade with Metagross. And if I throw out incorrectly any mashes, then I'll just be completely dead. At this point I'm behind anyway, so I'm not afraid of taking more risks to get back in the game. And he's more likely to play a bit more conservatively. Alright, so I go Bliss, and he T-bolts. I'm pretty sure I did calc the roll during the game. I can't be bothered doing it now. And he's switching out. I don't think I can really punish unless I double back to Skarm to try to get a spike down. But hard switching out doesn't make sense because Zapdos can still have Baton Pass, even though he didn't Baton Pass turn 1, turn 2, but that's because he had an Intimidate. But he still can have Baton Pass. Could also be Raw. So he switches into Swampert. So it's a Bliss beating Swampert, obviously. Or that's what he's representing. And maybe he's catching a T-Wave. And I throw up a Wish. Yes, I forgot. Wish was a mid-ground useful against anything. Now I'm just behind here. And I try to claw my way back into the game. He Hydros, I Seismic. 29%. The point is that it's offensive. I'm not sure about the Hydro. I was expecting an Earthquake. I don't think it would have mattered. I don't understand that Hydro, actually. Maybe it was to try to catch my counter. Yeah, but when am I ever countering there? I'm not sure about the Hydro. It's not a big deal, though. It was just a bit surprising during the game, I remember now. Okay, so this offensive Swampert is a massive threat, and we'll sort of go into a bit more detail, but it threatens my entire series. Depending on its speed, especially, well, now that my Tyranitar's paralyzed, I can represent that Tyranitar lives a Hydro, but it doesn't, so... Oh, it's probably a roll. I think it's a roll. So if I Seismic and it Earthquakes, some offensive Swampert, by the way, don't run Earthquake. They run 3 special attacks like Hydro, Ice Beam, and HP Grass to beat out opposing Swampert, and have Focus Punch. That's possible. But my Blissey's full health, and it looks bulky, it has Wish. And I've shown a Pursuit Tar. So my Blissey could very well not have Ice Beam. And if it's not running Ice Beam, it has T-Wave or some janky 4th move. Counter, that kind of thing. And what that means is Blissey will, I think, not be 3 KO'd by Earthquake. Blissey is a little better equipped to deal with this Swampert than maybe one with Ice Beam would be. And so, therefore, my Blissey checks his Swampert better. Therefore, his Swampert, I thought, would aim at my Blissey a bit more. And that's why I went to Skarmory. But he Focus Punches. What's he predicting? Wish? That's a funky mid-ground. During the game I thought it was Earthquake or Hydro, and less likely to Hydro into a bold Blissey. And so I thought Skarmory would be safe. But this turn 8 works out really nicely for him, and Tamahome gets the first few turns right. So on top of it being a very even-chanced matchup, I would say, especially because he didn't get a CB Growth for Mag, he's getting the turns right as well. Yeah, I just get completely crushed this game. If Salamence had lefties, I would maybe consider going to Salamence, but it's Choice Band. and I don't think I can bluff him out. Potentially I could, but I've shown Magneton, so I don't think he'll be scared of a mixed set, especially one that doesn't have lefties. So it's hard to bluff him out with Salamence. So I didn't want to pivot Salamence, especially if I have to just switch out again and take whatever attack he goes for plus Sand Chip. So into Skarm I go. So I'm just going to check the roll on my phone. Please give me a moment. 0 attack focus. Yeah, so it is a bit of a high roll, but probably not a max. 0 attack focus punch on max HP 0 defense Skarmory does between 26.3% and 31.1%. I guess the average is a bit lower than 30%, which is why, yeah, the crit's a bit nasty, but I think I'm lost anyway. I think he's heavily favored anyway. I don't have Protect, so getting a Toxic off or a second Spike wouldn't really have helped. Yeah, at this point I think it's not really worth analyzing the rest of the game, just because he has a DD, Lum, HP Grass type. And as you can see from my team, that murders me. So I'll stop over-analyzing. We'll let some stuff die. Oh, he outspeeds my Skarm, and I'm so behind, I go to Tyranitar. This turn is potentially a mistake by me, in the sense that if he Hydros, I think I die anyway. And so if he stays in and Hydros, I'm more likely to die than not. And if he's switching out anyway. My HP Grass isn't going to land on the Pert. So since I'm behind so much and I'm going to lose, I think maybe this turn is a Pursuit. Yep, okay, so turn 9, oh man, I'm so out of it. Probably a mistake. Because Pursuit will chunk like 40% off, or maybe more. And that's going to help Blissey and CB Ments beat it later on. HP Grass, and BKC said for him to go Metagross here. That's possible, but I don't think there's anything wrong with sacking Zap. Yeah, going Metagross is good. Staying in with Zap is fine. I wouldn't fault this play at all. So he chunks me and I kill it. And now he's going into Metagross. And at this point, I'm not terribly afraid of losing my Pert to a Boom. He's heavily favored anyway. I'm going to take some risks. So I go to Pert as he mashes. Check out my nicknames, by the way. I think they're really good. But the fact that I got killed in like 20 turns makes the nicknames a bit less fun. And he pivots in Salamence, as I pivot in my Salamence. Okay, so what was my reasoning on that turn? I'm behind, so I can do whatever I want to maximize my chances of winning. What's the rest of his team going to be? There's going to be a Tar. There's going to be very likely a Salamence or an Arrow. Well, we already know there's a Salamence. And the last could be a Grass type, a Fighting type, maybe not Celebi. I think it had a chance to come in earlier. Well, definitely not a Leech Seed bulky Celebi. And it could, yeah, obviously there's a Jirachi, but there could be Arrow, Mence, Lax, all of those things. So he's running people don't like saying spikeless offense. Well, PKC doesn't like it and he's the man, so we're going to say mixed offense. And I wanted to go to Mence to catch his Swampert check. If he mashes again, well done to him. He's ahead. He's not taking those kinds of risks. And if he does, he wins. I'm losing anyway. I take a risk. And he switches in his Mence, trying to catch my non-Ice Beam attacks, but I switched out to Mence anyway. And from the sand damage, we can see either it's a speed tie or I outspeed him. But, okay, well I already knew that, because my Salamence is max speed. But now he knows that. And Rock Slide threatens an Oko. And, I should have Earthquaked here. I read him as switching out, especially if his last two are weak to Earthquake. He's not going to risk losing his Mence to a CB Rock Slide, because he knows he's ahead. I know he's ahead. I know he knows he's ahead, and he knows I know he's ahead. So if I can catch the Mence, he can potentially lose to my CB Mence. So he wants to switch out. So now it's a matter of figuring out what he's going to pivot to. Man, why did I brick break? So dumb. Like, Earthquake with a spike down catches Tyranitar anyway. Oh man. BKC praised brick break, but it's horrible. Like, why didn't I just Earthquake? I'm sorry, fans, and you know, well done to you guys who hoping for a linear loss, but it's Earthquake here, right? It's Earthquake or Rock Slide. Why am I brick breaking? So I'd calculated during the game that Rock Slide kills, and if his last two lose to Salamence, he's going to want to switch out of his Salamence. So why not Earthquake? I don't have a good answer to this. I thought he would catch Tyranitar, Blissey, Snorlax, but so does Earthquake. And I think I was afraid of Earthquaking into like a Snorlax and then him going to Salamence, but who the hell is going into Snorlax this turn? Oh, I don't know. Yeah. Oh, this could have given me more chances. I'm sort of whacking my head. You can't see me. Good. Oh, this is tormenting. Yeah, because if I Earthquake the Metagross, yeah, I'm probably still behind, but at least I have better odds. Oh yeah, and offensive Swampert is not a switch-in. Although it is against Rock Slide, but he probably didn't want to risk that. Also, my Swampert is a huge threat. Well, his last two, let's play with kind of the knowledge of his last two as well. It's Jirachi and Tyranitar. And in general, Swampert is really threatening against offense teams. There was a game I played against Asta, where he had a Dragon Dance Tyranitar that had two special moves, Fire Blast and HP Grass, and I'd identified that the Tyranitar was going to be HP Grass just because the rest of the team hated switching into Swampert. You can breeds like that. So if the last two are weak for Swampert, there's going to be HP Grass on Mons, like this, probably a Mixments or Boomgross, HP Grass on Swampert, HP Grass on Zapdos. Just everything can hit Swampert, just so he's not like if this is HP Ice and I'm behind and Swampert is checking Zapdos, then it's going to be a huge problem for him. So Earthquake would have given me more chances. Brick Break doesn't even 2KO. Just idiot turn. Idiot turn. Idiot turn. I sacked Tyranitar on the boom, which is nice, but I could have kept Tyranitar alive. I'm not sure it would have mattered, but why not Earthquake? Oh, it's so bad. He switches into Swampert as I go to Salamence. Do I just HP Flying here? Or do I go to Blissey? I do go Bliss. And he catches... That's a beautiful turn from Tama. That's a really nice turn that I think... The best turn he could have done there. Unless I read that. But in this game, normally I like to think about their mid-grounds, and then think about mid-grounds I can do that cover those mid-grounds. But this game, and that entire week, I've just not been in the Mon headspace. Oh, imagine if I Earthquaked that turn. So let's break down why Tama did that. So he's reading me as either HP Flying the Swampert to chunk it down, or I'm going into my Blissey to check the Swampert that has eaten and Intimidate. And that's why he goes Tyranitar. And... sorry, had a phone call. Hopefully I haven't lost my train of thought. I paused my recording. Yeah, I mean, if I Earthquake there, he chokes. So it's a mid-ground / hard read. Or could I have Earthquaked here? But Salamence is so valuable. I don't know. He is risking his win con, but I think it's a calculated risk. I guess Blissey is a threat as well. So my entire team is threatening him. Okay. Yeah, Blissey. Okay, so all 3 of my remaining mons threaten kills against his team. So it's not over by any means, but I just felt so behind that game. I'm not sure why. But as it happens, turn 16 is just marvelously played by Tama. This kind of secures the deal. I know his Tyranitar is not getting lefties, and I do not want to go to Swampert to check it. And so I am bold, so I throw out a T-Wave. Lum Focus Punch, I think I'm the only person who does that, and maybe Asta, but it's not a thing yet. So I throw out a T-Wave, and he eats it, and he reveals that he's DD. Okay, so he's Rock Sliding this turn, and I'm T-Waving again. There's no reason for either of us to deviate. And he Rock Slides, and I get flinched. Ouch. Yeah. So now I'm completely dead. If I got the T-Wave off, I can potentially pivot to Swampert on the Rock Slide, and potentially go to Mence on the HP Grass. As it is, I'm flinched, and I'm dead. And this is kind of a staple of ADV. In Kalos Invitational, I think I've done the same to Passy G, and Passy G's done the same to me. In fact, it was kind of a similar deal, where his Tyranitar was DD Lum with a special coverage move, and he just so happened to have been running Ice Beam, and I was running Flygon. And the Ice Beam caught my Flygon, because the Rock Slide flinched my Blissey. And here he's DD Grass, and the Rock Slide flinches my Bliss. Recently I had a game against Mana, where I was behind, and I needed to sweep with my Lum DD-tar, and it got a Rock Slide flinch and it just swept through. And that's one of the reason why Tyranitar is Tyranitar rank in ADV. Yeah, my team is a bit soft to Grass Tar. I need Skarmory or Salamence or a T-Wave or a Swampert. As it was, most of my mons were as healthy as they could have been to fend off the Tyranitar, but it still got a flinch. And now the game's over. So rest didn't matter. I'm dead. It was annoying to lose, but it was still kind of fun to analyze this game. Especially because Tama made some great moves. He EQ'd my Mag with CB Gross. He managed to only allow 1 spike from my Skarmory. Sure, he did Focus Punch crit me, but he positioned himself to be able to do that. Okay, his team he brought was solid, was good against my team, and he had a Lum Grass Tar that he got maximum juice out of. I'm okay with losing to Tamahome. I guess it was closer than it felt on that day. I was really embarrassed, but I would like to quickly take a look at the team builder again and think about, sort of just quickly go over other options for the team, because this is a very solid 6, and just quickly go over the options for that. If you've made it this far in the video, thanks for bearing with my ums and ahs and frustration and everything. Just looking back in the team builder now and thinking about what sort of changes we can make to arm it for 2021. Some other options include a Mix Mence, and that helps out against all sorts of offenses, but it's worse against Zapdos, and it's potentially worse against Zapdos, and potentially worse against Celebi. Just because Celepass, like if Magneton is catching the Skarmory, then Celepass can be really, really annoying. Okay, definitely work on the perk spread. What Asta has done on a similar team, and it came into effect when I had a Crokun, I think, yeah. He had a specially defensive Swampert, and that, maybe with Raw? I can't remember if it had Toxic. I think it did. It didn't have Refresh. It had Surf, Toxic, Raw. So more classic Monopert move set, but with a specially defensive EV spread. that helps check all sorts of threats, especially opposing offensive Swampert. So that's a really nice idea from Asta to maybe consider. Another thing I would think about, potentially, is running Protect on the Skarmory. However, not having Roar can make it a bit more vulnerable to... Not so worried about Celebi, because Celebi is going to be paired with Magneton, that removes Skarmory. But Jirachi maybe, Roaring in a pinch, and maybe some Swampert. Kun. So potentially dropping Roar, putting Roar on specially defensive Swampert, and then having a phaseless Skarmory is an option. Blissey can definitely change. Roro mentioned something about running HP Grass. Yeah, that's possible, but doesn't feel like a good move. And Tyranitar can be DD, just to offer a lot of counterplay and endgame sweeping potential. And I think that DD might pair well with Raw specially defensive Swampert and no Raw on Skarmory to better check Jirachi. Just another option. I'm not really sure about that. And especially because we're dropping Raw for Protect, we still have Drill Peck to nudge Gengar. And if this was DD, we'd probably throw on Ice Beam or something like that on the Blissey. So those are some options. Yeah, so maybe DD Lum, mix, specially defensive Raw, drop Raw, throw an Ice Beam somewhere, and sort of play around with this team because it's a very solid 6. Might bring this later, don't know. If I'm playing you later this season, be on your toes. This is the end of the video. Thanks for watching. And I was really unhappy last week, but this week I've had some time and sort of going through this game and thinking about other options and thinking about where I can improve has lifted my spirits, and especially massive kudos to Tamahome for just totally destroying me. Good game.